Hey there everybody, this is John Gehring, also known as Ipaga, and I wanted to give you a short demo flight of using the new app that I'm working on called In-Flight Instruments. It's an app that'll let you have live instruments for infinite flight while you fly. In this video I'm going to show you flying with the 6-pack of instruments plus 2 VOR instruments and a throttle, and what we're going to do is we're going to fly from Seattle Tacoma International to down here McChord Air Force Base in a Cirrus SR-22. That may not be the most realistic flight, but who cares? So anyways, we're going to take off from Seattle Tacoma. We're going to turn to the left over the lake, fly south, and then we're going to hit the 207 radial of the SEA VOR station and fly on that. And then we're going to intercept the 163 radial of the TCM VOR station, and that should lead us right onto the approach of runway 16 right. If you don't know what radials are, I think I'll be explaining those a bit later. But in any case, in-flight instruments can either be run on a different device as a separate app or as a slide-over app on the same iPad. And in our case, that's what we're going to do. We're going to run it as a slide-over app. So here we go. We just slide in from the right. There it is. And we see the VOR instruments there on the bottom and the other instruments up at the top. If you tap a VOR station, you can choose which VOR station you want to connect to, and then you pick your radial using the dial, and that way we're all set, so when we fly, those needles will be moving, showing us where we need to go. So it's going to work pretty nicely. We'll see it here in a little bit. You'll notice I don't have the HUD on because with the instruments you really don't need the HUD. But as I'm making changes on either side of the screen, you have to kind of move the slide over out of the way so you can get to them. But once you have it set up, it really works pretty nicely. And with the throttle lever, I can set the airplane's throttle, and we're off to the runway to take off. So we're going to rotate at about 80 knots. Here we go. Let's give it full blast and see how this takeoff goes. So this is kind of a bumpy takeoff, to be honest, but we're up and going. I've actually done this before in just complete darkness and just only done via instruments, which is really a blast. But in this case, we got some nice sunny weather. What's really fun with the instruments is you can be looking around as long as you're keeping your eye on the artificial horizon there on the top right. You can still hold it pretty steady. So see here, I'm noticing, whoa, I'm starting to drop because of my vertical speed there. And but then I can just hold her steady. The Cirrus can really climb fast, I noticed. So we're about ready for our left turn over the lake. Here we go. Once again, not the smoothest of turns. I'm climbing, I think, way too fast. But man, the Cirrus really gives quite a lot of kick, so it didn't really matter. I'm trying to keep it at about a 30-degree turn, and I'm going to turn 90 degrees right out over the lake. Okay, I'm going to shorten things off here a little bit because I actually started to get overspeed, and you hear the really annoying overspeed warning. So anyways, I turned around. Now I'm flying south over the lake with the airport to my left. And so now, of course, we're going to start watching the VOR needle on my secondary VOR that I had set to the SEA VOR on radial 206, I think it was. So that's this one here. As soon as that hits the middle, see, there's my overspeed. Anyways, as soon as that hits the center, then we're on the radial, and we need to turn then to 206 to fly away on that radial. So notice as the needle is nearing the center, it'll be about time to take a turn to the right. Okay, so we waited a little long for that turn, so now the radial is to our right. That's why the needle is also to our right there. So instead of flying 206, we're going to fly a little bit to the right, 215 or so that we can intercept that radial again. But anyways, that means that we are headed away from the airport, from that VOR station, on the radial that we had set up on the VOR. Isn't that cool? Okay, and just to show you what exactly is going on, let me go ahead and turn on the autopilot. I'll move over the slide over so we can look at the map. So here we are flying away on exactly the radial. Now, of course, we're a little bit to the right because we're trying to intercept that radial again. So we now turn right back to where we wanted to, 209, whatever. And now if we look at the left VOR instrument, we're about to intercept that radial. So we're turning right onto the radial headed for that VOR station. Now that VOR station is a little east of the airport itself, so as we level out here and we see if we see the airport, we're going to notice that we're actually a little bit to the left of the runways. So of course we're going to need to intercept that. But here's where it gets a little tricky, because we want to have the ILS approach, which we only get if we set the HUD to actually have the correct ILS course. So we're going to need to move over the slide over. In fact, I went ahead and just slid it completely off the screen. I choose the ILS that I want, which is 16 right. Turn the HUD back off again, bring the slide over back in. So it's a little bit fiddly if you're trying to set up certain ILS frequencies, but once you got it set up, then it's fine, like I said before. So now we're going to just do our normal approach to 16 right, but notice the VOR now also has the vertical needle moving, telling us if we're too high or too low. So of course we're way too fast, so I'm going to start cutting the throttle, putting out flaps, and here goes our approach. Now what's fun is we can look and see Mount St. Helens off in the distance, all the while keeping an eye on our artificial horizon and our VOR needles to make sure that we get a good approach. Now I'm coming in way too fast, and I'm a little too high, so I need to be dropping quicker. This whole thing was obviously not the smoothest, best approach in the world, but you know, you get an idea. I'm going to go ahead and put out some flaps. Probably in real life I'd be going so fast that they'd fly off my wing and I'd crash, but we're not that real. But as we slow down, now I can drop it at even greater speed, which now is bringing the VOR needle back up where it needs to be, because we were too high before. Now we're just right. So now I kind of need to bring her back up again, and now the approach is looking much nicer than before. Now, you could also just be flying with an external view. I personally prefer the cockpit view, but what's nice with the instruments is you just keep her steady and you can have basically any camera perspective you want. So here we are. There's the runway straight ahead. It's the small one. We're coming in quite nicely. Of course, the closer you get to the runway at the very end, the more the needles are going to sway wildly, and you really don't need to watch them anymore. You just kind of need to aim for the numbers. And watch me come in way too fast and bounce once, but oh well. Well, there you have it. Hope that was fun enough. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm also going to do a primary flight display and a couple other instruments for the very first version, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to releasing it at some point. Thanks. Bye.